Well, good morning, everybody. Michael Hellickson here, and you are watching Club Wealth TV. We are live right now with Christopher DeWitt. Chris is a Tier 3 real estate agent out of Las Vegas, Nevada. That means Chris is closing between 75 and 150 transactions a year. And Chris is, first of all, doing a lot right and has come a long ways. And I want to share, I want to share with you today. I want to kind of dive in with him a little bit into his story and about exactly what he's doing that's causing him to close a lot more transactions now than ever before. Chris is having his best year ever this year at a time when a lot of agents are frankly struggling. And so, Chris, welcome to Club Wealth TV. It's good to see you, brother. And tell us first and foremost. You're in Las Vegas, Nevada. How long you been a real estate agent? And kind of what did last year and the year before that look like? What did it look like when you first came to Club Wealth? And kind of what are you doing differently to get to where you're at now?
All right, so a little bit of backstory on me. So I started in real estate 4.5 years ago. I was working full time, active duty in the military, so I was doing real estate part time. I think my first year I closed about $2 million worth, about 8 transactions,
Hmm.
while part time. The second year I did, I think, 36 transactions and a little over 11 million. Then my third year, first year as a full time real estate agent, I was closing about 20 million. And then I got to a point where it's like, hey, I need to grow. I'm kind of stuck here. I don't really know, what's the next step? What's the next level in the business? Because I was all solo. So, sitting down, talking to a lot of people, and they're like, hey, maybe you should start a team, start mentoring people to kind of get to the level that you're at. And I actually found Club Wealth through a Facebook group and a few referral partners that you have. I think he was actually a coach, Louis Pacheco, I believe.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, yeah, no, super
Yeah.
awesome. So he was a huge advocate of Club Wealth and what you guys do and how you help agents grow. And at the end of the day, I was like, well, maybe I'll, take up and be a coaching client and kind of see where that goes.
And at the time, you'd closed the most you'd closed in a year was how many?
About 20 million, about 48 transactions
48
as a solo
transactions.
agent.
And
Yeah.
you've already surpassed that this year already.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So
Yeah.
this year has been my best year yet. I think we're at about 60 transactions and about 23.5 million. And it's been a great year. I know you had mentioned the market is kind of slow right now. I mean, interest rates are high. There's a lot of uncertainty in the market. But at the end of the day, people are always buying and selling, and it's just getting in front of the right people, refining your systems to where you can get to a point where it's like, hey, like let's help with a conversion. And, at the end of the day, kind of coaching, mentoring other agents on the team, has really helped our team, surpass a lot of the other teams here in Vegas.
That's awesome. Okay, so what I want to know is, so okay, first of all, who's your current Club Wealth coach? Curious about that.
Okay, so current coach. So I just moved from Sharif to Peter.
Oh, Peter's great. Peter Boutros, dude, he is a stud. I actually coach Peter, so that's awesome. Yeah, he's a baller. Okay, so you just started coaching with Peter, and so what are you working on right now? So and actually, let's start with what are you working on now, and then I want to backtrack to kind of what were the changes that really got you from brand new in the business as a and coming out of the military into actually doing really well in production.
Okay. So right now we're working on refining our systems. And that's something I'm working actively, with my coach, just so we can get better conversion rates at the end of the day, stay top of mind, and just bring it on the right people. I hired a new executive assistant that's actually helping me run my team right now, to where I could take a step back and kind of work on other systems that we're constantly looking at refining. I feel like it's, a constant battle of refining systems to get to a point to where you can continue to grow, to expand. And what you said, it's like, how did I get to the point where I was, kind of stuck at 20 million to be able to surpass that in, less than 6 months this year? It's really, hunkering down on those systems and pushing to the next level to where it's like, hey, we're converting at a really high rate. We have a really tight, locked in, I feel like listing presentation. And then with the big changes, last year, I know a lot of realtors, it's like mandatory to have a buyer brokerage agreement. It was a big kind of shuffle in the market. But a lot of people looked at that, as a bad thing. It's like, where people are panicking. I mean, there's a ton of opportunity in that. And just staying ahead of that curve really has helped our business thrive this year.
I like to always tell people, where there's chaos, there's opportunity. And certainly there's been some chaos in the marketplace. So let's back up. So I love that you're working on systems, but frankly, if all you do is work on systems, you're not getting anything done, right? I mean, so what does your schedule look like every day? Like, how are you getting the leads coming in? Are you buying leads? Are you prospecting? What are the things you're doing for lead generation that are working best for you right now?
So lead generation, we do a lot of sphere of influence. We do paid leads. What else?
What are some of the
Google
paid leads?
SA has been really big for us
Okay.
this year. Every time we get a client asking for Google reviews, trying to build up our SEO online, that's really helped us, expand and grow a lot and get more intrinsic leads that way. Some of these paid lead sources that come in, getting in front of them and then just being ready to take massive action has really, really helped us convert.
Okay, so I got down GLSA, paid leads, sphere of influence, SEO. What are some of those paid lead sources that you're liking right now?
So Z Buyer,
So
we use
leads like
yeah,
candy.com.
leads like candy. We do My Plus leads, so expired, for sale by owner, withdrawn, realtor.com. Um, there's a couple networks that we're kind of partnered with online. Club Wealth has kind of its own referral network as well. So just being tagged by other coaches, other people that are, a part of the Club Wealth entity. I mean, that's helped with a few referrals as well this year.
Okay, by the way, I'm just making notes of all this. I'm actually typing it into the chat in the Facebook post. So this is good. Okay, so we got My Plus leads, are some of your and leads like candy.com are two of your paid lead sources that you're doing well with, as well as realtor.com. You're getting a lot of referrals, it sounds like, from Club Wealth, which is awesome. That's a great source. I'm assuming you get a lot of those because you meet people at events and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. Meet
Yeah.
people at events. I mean, my coaches are always tagging me, referring me, and vice versa. We help each other out at the end of the day. So it's really, really helped with the business.
Well, and truth be told, I mean, it's interesting because I get some people, and I should say, I get a lot of people that come into Club Off and that have a lot of success with referrals going back and forth with other people in Club Wealth. And then I get some people that come in and they say, well, I don't get any referrals from Club Wealth. And the first question I always ask is, okay, are you on the mastermind calls every week? Are you at the events? Are you participating in those conversations? And in other words, are you asking questions during those conversations? Does your Zoom name say, and like I'm looking at yours right now, Christopher, and yours says Christopher DeWitt, Las Vegas, Nevada. That sounds like a small thing, but it's a big deal because people need to start remembering you and where you serve. And the more that happens, the more likely you are to get referrals. And I think a lot of people, I think that's just lost on a lot of people. And so it's simple things like that that can actually lead to quite a few referrals. So what other thoughts do you have on, where you're getting business and how you're getting referrals?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so word of mouth and referrals from past clients have kind of been big as well. We actually have a client event planned for later this summer. I think we're gonna do like a little kind of like a fiesta theme to where we bring in a lot of our past clients and then just staying top of mind. We were sending out postcards, every year, all the big holidays. Maybe throw like a little $5 Starbucks gift card in there. Hey, we're just thinking of you. At the end of the day, if we can serve you in any way, looking to buy, sell, move, any of your friends and family, we would love to be, that source for you. So that's helped us with some of these past referrals, just trying to stay top of mind. So I would say, planning for client events and then just, sending out mailers for any past clients.
I love that you're doing the holiday events, actually the holiday postcard with the Starbucks cards and the Fiesta theme coming up here on your next client event. What are the other client events that you've done, let's just say in the last year or two?
So I guess one, it wasn't necessarily a client event, but I did do, a speaking thing with a bunch of actually active duty military people,
Mhm.
kind of lower ranking. Explained a lot of the ins and outs of, hey, how do you use the VA loan? What can I do to just give you value at the end of the day? Not going there necessarily for business. But it was a good way to educate and then, have them either add me on Facebook, give them my card so they have a resource to where they know how to use their benefits. Because a lot of people, at least in the military, when you're younger in the military, you don't know about buying houses, what it really takes and, your VA benefits at the end of the day. So just kind of stepping in, educating these people, just giving them a ton of value and not really asking for anything in return. I mean, that helps as well to help.
That's huge. Yeah, well, and to your point, it's interesting to me how many people in the military don't really understand their free VA benefits that they get. They don't realize that DD-214, that's like a freaking pot of gold, man. You can get in for zero down with that, and the rates are great. And so, it's awesome that you're educating them. How did you get in with that? I mean, I know you're former military, and by the way, thank you again for your service. But and by the way, what did you do in the military? I'm curious. I'd love to just explore that for a second.
So I was a F-15 avionics maintenance by trade. I got to a position to where I was leading, shifts of like 30, 40 people. Just because the military, it's a leadership structure. As you make rank, you get more responsibility, you get higher leadership positions. And then I moved over to like microelectronics for the last 4.5 years,
Wow.
which was a small section, super stringent certifications to actually rebuild like circuit cards. They're in aircraft components that, they don't make them anymore. So it's like, hey, if you don't make them anymore, what do we got to do to repair it? So replacing resistors and all kinds of stuff at the micro level just to get components to work again. So it was a pretty niche kind of job while I was in.
That's crazy. That sounds very technical. Wow. So what made you leave that to get into real estate?
To be honest with you, my last year in the military, I think I quadrupled my income just with my side hustle in real estate, and it just got to a point to where it just didn't make sense for me to stay active duty in the military. I was just making way too much money in real estate. And, for my family, it made way more sense for me to transition out and just continue to do this and continue to grow.
Mama's like, dude, it is time for you to start bringing home some real dollars.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's something, when you're in the military, you just have no idea what is out there, like what the next level of business can actually be. And it's changed my life, exponentially. Like looking back, 4, 5, 6 years ago, I mean, it's just been such a transition in life and growth and leveling up. Super, super thankful for it at the end of the day, and super thankful to be aligned with a lot of the right people to kind of help me get there because I didn't get there, on my own at the end of the day.
I'd love to hear you say that, and I'll tell you why. Because so often now, and I think this is a real problem in our industry, and it's a problem everywhere, but particularly in the real estate industry, it's frustrating when I see people that, they finally achieve some success, and it's that they think it's all them, right? And they forget the people that helped them get there. Yeah, and I'm talking about everybody from family to team members to clients to coaches to mentors to broker owners to, there's so many people involved. I mean, heck, what about your vendor partners, right? Your lender, your title, your escrow, there's so many people. What is it? 48 people touch the average real estate transaction. And all of them are necessary for you to, and I say you, for real estate agents to be successful. And it's so easy for agents to forget how, having a title company that does a great job on a transaction and gets their job done in a timely manner is actually really critical to this process. Or having a lender that gets their job done in a timely manner, what a difference that makes. And that can make or break you. And so I love to hear you say that you remember and you're grateful for the people that helped you get there. That's a big deal. So
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And, looking back at some of my referral partners, title escrow, I mean, it just makes the whole experience better for the client at the end of the day. And then really what feeds those referrals is just having a great experience throughout the transaction,
right.
where people aren't dropping the ball, they're constantly, hey, do you need anything from us? How can we help? So they feel educated throughout the process and they're just kind of, filtering along. And it's like, wow, that was a really great experience. Of course, I'm going to recommend you, Michael Hellickson. Like you were amazing during the transaction. So yeah,
So
absolutely.
tell me, let's take a step back. Let's shift gears from sphere of influence and referrals for a moment. Let's talk for a minute about what are the things that you did differently as a tier one, let's say, or when you got into Club Wealth, you were barely in tier two, right? So let's actually say from the time that you were tier two till now, what habits changed for you that have led to greater success?
So just prospecting every day. When
Mhm.
I first got in the business, I kind of did it sparingly, when I can, just kind of relied more so on sphere of influence. And then taking a step back and realizing like, look, dude, you got to prospect every day. You want to keep your pipeline full. You're gonna have to get out there and make the calls. I'm still making calls, even as a coach, team leader. You know, leading by example. I'm not going to sit back and just, be like, hey, just do this and that, and then just, not do anything. So at the end of the day, stepping in and leading by example and just making those calls, prospecting every day, getting after it. At the end of the day, you can't just sit back and just wait for stuff to happen.
Okay, so let's talk about your perfect daily schedule. I want to know what time you get in the office every day. First of all, you obviously look like you're in an office and not working from home, so I love that. And I think honestly, I think that makes a big difference. And I think I think too often agents want to say, oh, I'm just as effective at home, blah, blah. No, you're not. That's not true. You're more effective when you're in the office. I mean, it's in fact, studies show you're anywhere from 25 to 33% more effective working in an office than you are working from home. That being said, what time are you? So first of all, do you go to the office every day, 5 days a
I
week?
do. I do
You
go to the
do.
office every weekday.
Okay.
And what my perfect daily schedule looks like, and don't judge me, I'm in Vegas, so there's a lot of nightlife here. But I personally get up, 4:30, 5 a.m.,
That's early.
gym for an hour and a half or two.
Yep.
Depending on my wife's schedule, I might get my three kids ready for school, drop them off on my way into the office, and I'm typically in the office, before 9:30 every day. So kind
Okay.
of like 9:30 to 3:30 is really my like set more or less time in the office, just depending on how appointments, shift around during the day. But I make an effort, to get in the office every day. I have, four or five people in the office every day with me in our own, team office that are also prospecting alongside of me. So it makes a huge difference, because even them, a lot of them were working from home before, and when they joined the team, they're like, hey, like I feel a lot more level of accountability. We're all kind of doing this together. And they're continuing to work consistently versus just being at home like you said. Like it's a lot easier to get distracted by TV, snacks. If you got kids, if you got dogs, whatever the case may be, there's just distractions everywhere. So if you get in an environment where it's like, hey, when I get in here, 100% focused to just getting whatever I need done, prospecting, whatever I need to work on in my business. I mean, it just makes a huge impact.
Well, and I love that you're talking about, leading by example, and it makes a big difference. It's interesting to me. I was talking to a team leader earlier this week. I guess it was yesterday. Today, what's today, Tuesday? So it must have been yesterday. But I was having this conversation with them, and essentially they're saying, well, I prospect from home. Some of my team members prospect from the office. I'm like, well, why aren't you in the office with them side by side? I can't think of a better way to train them. I can't think of a better way to hold them and you accountable than to be sitting next to them every single day making those calls. And when you're there at 7:30, guess what they do? They show up at 7:30. You show up at 9:30. I'm sure they're showing up at 9:30, right? And no judgment here. I mean, dude, first of all, you're in the office every day. That's better than 99% of the agents out there are doing. Would I encourage you to be there by 7:30? Yeah, of course I would. Absolutely, I would find a way to make that work, and I would encourage your agents to do it as well. I mean, if you want to get to that next level, that is part of what it takes to get to the next level, right? I mean, you look at Kobe Bryant. What time did he get in the gym? 10? 9:30? No. That kid was
Like
in there.
4 or 5 a.m. every day.
That's
Every day.
exactly right. That's exactly right. And because he was there at 4 or 5 o'clock every day, every morning, and because he practiced longer than everybody else, guess what he also did? He succeeded at a higher level than anybody else. Right? And I personally, I think he's the GOAT, man. I love that guy. All right. That being said, uh, so when you're there, so you're there, let's call it by 9:30. How do you have a set number of hours that you're making calls no matter what?
Yeah, yeah. So I work, I say after our morning huddle. So we have a team meeting at about 9:30, Zoom slash in the office, kind of a hybrid. And then after that, I look to make calls from like 10 to 12, kind of follow up prospect. And then I try to push to set the appointments in the afternoon, and a lot of times I'll push for same day appointments. If I get somebody on the phone and they're not at work and they can be at their house in the afternoon, I'll go to their house in a freaking hour, or 30 minutes. I already have pre-listing presentations prepped, print off a couple items, and then it's kind of customized to each individual house, and I'm out the door ready to go.
And then do you have a set number of appointments? You're like, okay, I've got to set this many appointments a day, no matter what. Is there a number for you?
Yeah, so I work to do at least one or two every day. Granted, it doesn't happen every day. We push just depending on our schedule, different stuff comes up. Like yesterday, for example, I just had a packed schedule. Like there was no way I was going to push, set an appointment, but I got someone that was on the phone that I knew was ready for an appointment. So I look over at one of the team members that I have by my shoulder and I'm like, "Hey, I need you to take over this call, set the appointment today." We had her on speakerphone. We kind of talked her through and it's like, "Hey, like, yes, I'm available at 3." I'm like, "I can't do that. That's you, man. Let's go ahead and get it set." Get over there, do the listing presentation, and when I get in the office 9:30 this morning, I'm going to talk to him about how it went.
Good. I love that. And I love that you're coaching him live with real calls instead of doing role playing and all that stuff. I always tell people, the best way to learn is get in the ring. It's like Mike Tyson said, right? Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. Well, you don't get punched in the face when you're role playing with another team member. You get punched in the face when you're on the phone with a real client. That's where we learn the best. So I love that you're kind of whisper coaching to them while they're on that call. That's huge. That's actually really helpful. So who are you guys calling when you're calling to set appointments? Who are you calling? FISBOs, expired cold calls? What do you do?
So we do FISBOs expired. The leads like candy's big for us. I also do listings to leads. Different
Mhm.
Facebook ads that'll trickle in, and then our agent website as well. Those will trickle in. When we have YLOPO running in the background, we use their AI that are sending out text messages as well. So when we see those pop up as well, we'll follow up with those leads and more or less like real time kind of take over the conversation from what the AI is doing, and go from there to just pick up, where they kind of left off.
Dude, that's huge. And so I'm tagging Scott Pierce, by the way, from L2L in the Facebook post here. So you're using some pretty standard lead sources. It's not like you're using any crazy lead sources that nobody else has access to. Nothing you're using is super expensive. You're using stuff that I would consider to be, very affordable lead sources, and yet they're paying off. And the reason they're paying off is because you're doing it consistently every day. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I guess here's my question for you. What's it going to take? And because I can't, I would be a bad coach if I didn't, get on this call with you today and do a little bit of coaching. What's it going to take to get you to set your goal and to actually make it your mission in life to get 10 appointments a week, no matter what?
Oof, yeah, that's gonna take the next level of discipline at the end of the day. I know it's very, very doable, and it's just building out, I guess, systems. What we circle back to give me more time to make more calls. I feel like myself, some of the experienced agents on my team, we have a really high conversion rate. So higher the number of calls, the higher conversion, the more appointments set at the end of the day. Um,
Do you have ISAs working with you?
I do. So
How many ISAs do you
I
have?
so I only have one.
Okay. And where are they Philippines or where they at?
Philippines.
What do you
Yes,
pay
sir.
them?
Yes, sir. 333 an hour.
333 an hour. Is there any bonuses for appointments that show or anything like
Yeah,
that?
yeah. So any kind of converted actual deal that, we convert into a closing, I'll give them $100 bonus. If they can set an appointment to where we actually physically, get into an appointment, like go to a house or set up some kind of like Zoom call to get them locked into like a buyer brokerage agreement, I'll give them $10 per, initiative on that.
On the closing piece, I would probably not recommend paying them a bonus on closing. The reason is, even though they're in the Philippines, I think you could run the risk of a RESPA violation on that because it's tied to a closing. I'd rather see you pay a little bit extra, like let's say $50 per appointment that shows, or $10 or $25 or whatever the number is. Pick a number. I'd work backwards. I'd say, how many appointments that show up do I need to get to a closing? I'd divide that, $100 by that number, and I would give them that as an added bonus for appointments that show up. But that being said, what I'm here, oh, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Oh, well, I was going to say it's not directly like tied out of the commission or anything like that.
Hmm.
More or less like a tip. if
Hmm.
that makes sense. So it's not, directly because of the closing, I'm not paying them out of the closing or any
Yeah.
of those funds. It's just more like a cash tip.
Yeah. Cool. So what I would ask you then is how many appointments is your ISA then setting per week?
About 20 roughly. Um, are they in-person appointments? No. So a lot of times we set the appointment to have an agent call, and then we kind of filter through to set a physical appointment from there.
Okay, so here let's get in some numbers really quick here. Okay, so what's your average sales price?
So average sales price in Vegas about 550.
Okay, and how many appointments does it take you to get a listing? How many appointments that show up does it take you to get a listing?
I would say appointments that she sets.
Yes, let's start with that. How many appointments does she set that show to for you to get an actual listing?
I would say probably around 10.
So you need 10 appointments to one listing. Okay. Okay, so you need 10 of those. And then how many appointments does she set to get 10 to show up?
How many? So I would say she's about a 7 out of 10.
About 70%. Okay, so okay, so let's go. So you're gonna need, yeah, I mean, if you wanted to get 10 to show up, you're gonna need 17 roughly. Is that right? No, that's not right. Yeah, that is right. Actually, you're gonna need about 16. So you're gonna need 16 appointments set to get 10 to show up. All right, so this is interesting. So this the reason I'm doing this math here is I want to make sure that we're moving forward. And I'm concerned with your hour and a half in the gym every morning and mama and the kids and all the stuff you got going on there. I'm concerned that it's going to be difficult to get you to show up in that office at 7:30 in the morning. I know we've had this. I remember we had this conversation at Mastermind in Paradise, and I have a hunch that it's unlikely that I'm going to be able to convince you to be in the office at 7:30 every morning. So the alternative to that is you need another ISA making these calls, and you need somebody that's going to set another 60 appointments. So honestly, if you got another full-time assistant you'd be able to set an extra 10 appointments a week. Now, if you added, because right now, currently, how many appointments are you setting a week on average? And I should
About
say, how many appointments are
5.
you going on a week?
I would say setting about 5, and then, going on about 3 to 4.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, if it were me, because you're giving obviously some of these ISA set appointments are going to your team members, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm assuming they're taking the buyers, you're taking the sellers, or are you breaking it up differently than that?
So I focus more so on sellers. So if I do have buyers, I'll ship more of them to them, and it just depends on the schedule because I'll also, hand off some sellers as well.
Why?
If I don't have time in my schedule to set the appointment and get them converted, I'll pass them off just so I can get it converted same day.
I gotta see your schedule. I'm getting nervous about your schedule. I gotta see where you're spending that time. Uh, because I'll tell you, I mean, you should be okay. Watch this. You're showing up at 9:30. Hold on. What time? And you said you're working from 9:30 to 3:30.
Roughly, yeah.
So you're working 6 hours a day.
Well, with appointments in the afternoon, I'm
Hold
shift
on. So you're going on appointments after 3:30.
occasionally. I would say maybe once a week. I'll do like
So
after
what? So
3:30.
really,
Depending
you're
on the
working
moment.
6 hours a day.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when you put it like that, uh,
That
yeah,
30-hour week sounds rough, bro.
I
So
mean,
okay, so here's what I get asked. What do you want most? What is most important to you right now?
yeah, yeah. I mean, so I'm looking at growing my team, so that's pretty important to me right now. I don't necessarily want to add a ton of extra hours, but you're right. The majority of the weeks I'm working about 6 hours a day times that by 5.
Hey, you're
That's
working
about
30
30
hours a
hours
week.
a week. But I do, occasionally I'll go on listing appointments on the weekend, but that's something I time block for the family.
I was just going to say, I have a feeling occasionally is maybe once a month at best. And so I think really, I mean, here's the thing. By the way, I'm not going to give you a hard time. Well, that's not true. I am going to give you a hard time for working part-time because essentially you're working part-time right now. 30 hours a week is part-time. I mean, let's call it what it is. So, and you're doing really, really well for working part-time. And that said, if what you really want, if you want to grow the team, how many people are on the team now?
We have 7 agents now.
7 agents. Okay. All right. And how many transactions of your, you said you did 69 or sorry, 60
About
transactions this year
60.
so far?
Yeah, roughly.
What was it? 60, 68?
60.
60. Okay. So we got 60 closings this year so far. How many of those are yours? How many of those are your team?
I would say 30 roughly are
About
mine.
half
And
and
then,
half.
yeah, yeah, roughly.
Yeah. Okay. So you're going to need, if so, watch this. If you want to double your income in the next 12 months, which I'm guessing you probably do, right?
Yeah, who wouldn't want to double their income?
Okay. And it sounds like working with your wicked challenging 30 hours a week is a priority, right? So we want to make sure that we're not going beyond our 30 hours a week. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. So if that's the case, then if I want to just make up for my production, right? So one of the things I'm going to have to do is I got to grow my team, right? I'm looking at 7 agents bringing in 30 transactions a year. Obviously, if I want to double my production, I really need to, I mean, essentially, doubling the number of agents is not going to double my production. I need to triple the number of agents to double my production. So, in order to triple the number of agents, how many agents have you hired in the last 3 years total? And because, not all of your agents have stuck, right? So, how many total agents did you hire in the last 3 years?
I think right around 11, 10 or 11. Um, and 3 or 4, come and go since.
Okay, so you've had a pretty good stick rate. So, I mean, let's just call it what it is. To be very safe, to be conservative in numbers, you're going to need to hire probably, if I want to get to 21 agents, I'm going to need to hire at least 35 agents to get to my 21, right? All right, so if I want to double my production, those agents, and by the way, first 6 months and agents with us, they're not super productive, right?
Right,
All
right.
right, so if I want to double my production, I got to hire 35 agents in the next, I'm going to say, I mean, how fast do you think you can hire 35 agents?
Oof, couple years.
2 years? What the freak? Are
I
you
mean,
kidding me?
a year?
Okay. All right. So, yeah, I mean, I'll say this. So Austin, you know Austin really well. And for those of you that are watching that don't know who Austin is, Austin's my son. Austin is 23 years old. In November, he had 6 agents. Today, he's got 32 in Washington. I think he's got 8 or 10 coming on board in Utah. I could be wrong about that number. But all that in about 6 months. And so when I hear 35 agents, I'm thinking, hey, look, if you're serious about recruiting and you hire, right now, what I would do is I would hire an ISA that would be doing nothing but recruiting. And essentially what they're doing is they're scheduling appointments for you to meet with agents. And then for you, I would suggest you need at least 10 appointments to show up with agents. And I think you'll find the numbers are going to be real similar to the consumer numbers. So you're going to need somebody that's setting 16 to 20 appointments a week to get to you to 10 that show up. Of those 10 that show up, you should get 25% or two and a half of those should join your team right away and another two and a half over the next 6 months. But let's just to be safe, let's just say two and a half a week. That gives you 10 a month. Uh, and so, I mean, to say 3 months is doable, that's definitely doable. But let's just be conservative and let's go 6 months. If you hired a full-time ISA, 6 months gets you to 35 new agents on the team, right? We want to hire 35 new ones so we can get to a net. We're going to call it 21 to 25 agents, which is what it's going to take for you to double your income without working 60 hours a week or even 40 hours a week, because 40 would be grueling. You do.
Oof.
I'm just telling
That's
you right
pretty
now,
rough.
bro, I am teasing you about that for the rest of your life. I'm just letting you know that. Like, I'm never going to relent on the wicked 30-hour week. So I'm curious, those of you that are watching, type into the chat, how many hours a week are you guys working? Really, like truly, like how many hours are you guys in the office working or out on appointments working? I'm curious. But that being said, does that sound like, I mean, are you open to that? Is that something you're willing to do? Is hire an ISA to help you set appointments for recruiting?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Because it doesn't sound like setting more
But,
listing appointments is what you want to do.
I
Because
mean,
that's going to get you working more than 30 hours a week.
obviously, I'm going to continue to set more listing appointments, but not just for myself, for team members, and then having team members, that can produce at the end of the day is going to, like you said, help with the business. Granted, if I multiply that by three or four, times what I already have, that's some pretty serious growth there. So
I mean, but for you to be able to double your income without working more than 30 hours a week, that's what it's going to take. I
yeah,
mean, just based on your numbers, based on the number of transactions per agent you've got happening there. And let's call it what it is. You're not going to go recruit 35 baller agents. You're going to go recruit 35 agents. And, of those, maybe eight of them are going to turn out to be ballers and the rest of them are going to be, okay. And when I say okay, there's nothing wrong with that agent that wants to work part-time or that, doesn't want to, close 50 transactions a year or whatever. There's nothing wrong with those guys on your team. The key is we got to make sure that we're hiring enough people on the team to get to the numbers that you need to get to double your income. And for you, there's no question that is going to be an extra 35 agents. So that's going to put you at a total of 42 agents on the team. Now, 42 agents on the team is looking pretty good for you. So I guess the question I have is this the route you want to go?
to be honest with you, that's a lot higher number than I kind of had envisioned before this call. I was thinking maybe I want to bring on 5 to 10 over the next year.
You know what's going to happen if you bring on 5 to 10 agents over the next year, right?
What's that?
You're going to barely keep pace with where you're at right now because you're going to have attrition. There's no question you will have attrition, and you'll do slightly better than what you're doing right now. But it'll be negligible though. 5 agents on your team. I mean, you're going to lose two. You're going to gain five. Of those, you're going to lose at least one or two, which puts you at maybe one or two more agents than you are right now. So you're going to be maybe at the end of that year, you're maybe at 9 agents. I mean, that's just reality.
Right. Absolutely.
So yeah. So okay. So then the question is, does that scare you, or and if it and whether it scares you or not, are you going to do it? Is that a number you can get your head around and say, hey, look, I'm going to actually go for that.
I'm not gonna lie to you. It's a little intimidating to think, hey, I'm gonna just triple my team size or quadruple my team size, in the next like 3 to 6 months. So, it's a little intimidating. Um, but yeah, I
So
mean, it's definitely, a crazy goal to kind of shoot for is the way I see it.
I mean, I just have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
So if that is can you read that from where you're at?
Comfort zone?
If that's your comfort zone, where's the magic happen? Right? It's all out there, right? It's
Yeah.
outside your comfort zone. So where's this goal going to get met? It's going to be somewhere out here, right? It's not going to be inside the comfort zone. And so I love hearing that you're intimidated by this. And what I want to know is, are you going to do it anyway? I'm
Yeah.
pushing you for the commitment
Yeah.
because here's the thing. The reality is, if you're serious about doubling your income, right? I mean, and here's the thing. We all would, oh yeah, it'd be great to double my income. Everybody talks a great game. Everybody says, yeah, that'd be great. But the reality is, very, very, very few people are willing to do what it takes. Very, very, very few people are willing to put the effort, energy, and commitment in that it takes to actually double their income. And in your case, we have a constraint. By the way, I'm not saying it's bad. You know how I feel about it. No success in the world can compensate for failure in the home, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
so I'm not belittling the constraint, of, hey, I'm only going to work, my 6 hours a week. So, or sorry, 6 hours a day. It'll eventually be 6 hours a week, but I'm only going to work my 6 hours a day because I want to spend time with my family. Fair. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But here's the thing. There is something wrong with accepting mediocrity and accepting status quo, right? There is something wrong with saying, hey, look, you know what? I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and I don't plan on growing. I don't plan on improving. And again, this doesn't mean more hours. It means doing the very best we can with the hours and the dollars that we have. So give me the reasons. What's going to keep you from hiring an ISA to help you with recruiting, to, set appointments for you to go out and recruit? Number one. So that's the first question.
Nothing. I'll, put a job ad out today. I set an alarm already, 10:40 this morning, and we'll see where it goes, have somebody hired by next week.
Okay. So there's a difference between we'll see where it goes and we'll have somebody hired by next week. Which is it?
We'll have somebody hired by next week.
There you go. Friday of next week. All right. I'm writing this down. In fact, I'm going to put it in the chat here. I'm going to put it in the, hang on one second. Okay. So, Christopher will have an ISA recruiter hired by Friday. What's the date on Friday? Let's take a look at that. That's going to be that's the 4th of July. That'll be easy to remember. All right, now, and will hire. How many agents are you committed to hiring no matter what in the next 12 months? And
No matter
actually, I
what,
said
I'm,
next
I'm
12. Let's say
committing to 7, no matter what.
7. Are you
That's
kidding me?
doubling my team size.
7. And you think it's going to take you 12 months with a full-time recruiter to get to 7 agents? Are you kidding me?
All
Come
right,
on, dude. You
I'll
can do
go.
better than that.
I'll go 14.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's tripling my team size. It's going from
But
7
it's not
to
going to triple your
21.
team size. It actually won't. You'll be lucky to double your team size in 12 months because you're going to have attrition out of that. So if you hire 14, you'll barely double the number of people on your team at the end of the year.
Let's see.
Um, and so, but okay, so I'm putting down 14 new agents. Now, is that going to be net new, or is that just you're going to hire 14, which means you're going to end up you're going to hire 14 new ones, which means your team size at the end of that 12 months is going to be a total of 14 agents.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, my kids just came in. Hey, can you guys step out? I'm on the phone. All right. So what was that?
What were we just talking about? Are you in the office or at the house?
I'm at the house. This is
Did
my
we not just have this conversation, Christopher?
it is my office. But yeah, I got to take my kids to school and then I'm heading to the work office.
Oh my
You
gosh.
just
Okay.
assumed I was in my work office.
I did because I saw that other desk in there. I didn't assume that you had two desks in your office at the house. So, all right. So that being said, are we going to be at a net 14 or a net 21 agents at the end of 12 months?
I would say a net 21.
Net 21. Okay. 14 new and also I will hire I'm just going to say at least 14 new agent and have a minimum of 21 net agents on team by, and what's the date today? The 24th, June 24th, 2025. Does that sound good?
Yeah, yeah. Sounds very attainable.
If not,
Whoa.
Christopher hereby authorizes Club Wealth. Hold on. You know where I'm going with this. To run his credit card for you're in tier 3, so that's gonna be $3,000, and give the money to the political party or candidate that Christopher least prefers. We good with that?
Whoa. 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 Whoa.
Well, hold on
Start
now.
off with that.
What's that?
I said you should have started off with that.
Wait, no, 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 no. Hold on, Mr. I served in the military guy. I mean, watch this. You fix a freaking, little electronics card on an F-15. How committed are you to the quality of the job you just did? I mean, if you didn't do that job 100% right, that guy in that F-15 dies. I mean, I'd say that's pretty important, right? I mean, that
Yeah,
guy doesn't come back home that trip, right? So
absolutely.
I would assume that having been in the military and in that capacity at that level, that when you make a commitment, it's all in or nothing. Is that true?
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely.
So the consequence shouldn't matter, right? I mean, when
That's
you make a
true.
commitment, Christopher, it's a commitment. And so regardless of what the consequence is, you have decided, hey, I'm going to do this no matter what. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I would.
So does the consequence matter? I mean, at
No,
the,
no,
at the
you're
end of the
right.
day, you're either committed to getting those 21 people hired, getting to a 21 of net 21 agents so hiring 14 new and or a total of a minimum of net 21 by a year from today, which by the way, you could easily do this in 6 months if you really put your mind to it.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, no, I agree. I agree. And I feel like putting your mind to it and pushing to make it a no matter what, non-negotiable. Um, yeah, I'll commit to it.
okay. There
Yeah.
you go. So I just tagged you in it. All right. So in the Facebook post that I just posted now, make sure you go in there and hit reply to that particular comment and say, done, I'm committed. So here's the deal, dude. Here's what I can promise you. As you do this, as you go out and you actually recruit these people, you'll be able to keep your weeks to 30 hours a week, and you'll be able to, to double your income. It really will happen. But the key is going to be, you've got to recruit these agents, and you've got to be going into that office, and you got to be prospecting next to them and whisper coaching them, doing the stuff that you're already doing there. That's going to be a key component because you got to get them into the right habits also, right? Once you get them into the right habits, then the money will follow for both of you. So. Good stuff. So here, dude,
I
and by the
love
way,
it. I love it. You're just sitting here pushing people out of their comfort zone and, oh my God, what's the worst thing that happens? Make a shit ton more money?
right? I
Yeah.
mean, geez, dude, working 30 hours a week. I mean, come on, dude. Like that's the worst possible outcome here. So, no big deal, right? All right, so here's the question. What other advice would you give to people watching other than avoid ambushes? Which it seems like you may have just gotten ambushed here. I did not intend to do this on our call today, by the way, but it just kind of worked out fortuitously for both of us that way. But other than avoiding ambushes with Hellickson, which by the way, shout out to Omar. Shout out to Omar. I'm putting this in here because Coach Omar always feels like he's getting ambushed by me. Um, so, other than that, what advice would you give to the people on the call? Like anybody that wants to, you're a Club Wealth coach, you coach people, and like all of our coaches, right? All of our coaches at Club Wealth sell more real estate than the people they coach. So now that you're in tier three, you coach people that are in tier two. That means you're coaching people that are doing 25 to 75 transactions a year. So, what advice would you give to that group? What do I need if I'm doing 25 to 75 transactions a year? What do I need to be able to get to where I'm doing 75 to 150? What do I have to change? What do I have to do?
I'm just going to be transparent with you. You should hire a coach and surround yourself with the right people, to have that structure in place, the accountability, like what you just did with me, commit to this number. And, at the end of the day, what happens next? Like you grow. So just surrounding yourself with the right people and hiring a coach, a mentor. That's got me to where I am, just having a mentor, somebody already at the next level. And then just, picking their brain, seeing what they're doing. What systems can you add to your business to really take it to the next level?
Dude, I'll tell you what, as people are watching this, I got to think they're thinking to themselves, man, how in the world? I'm struggling. I'm working 60, 80 hours a week and I'm struggling to do 25, 30 deals a year. And this guy's working 30 hours a week and he's doing 120 to 150 deals a year. What is my problem, right? And I guess what I'm saying to you guys watching this is Christopher just nailed it on the head, or hit the nail on the head, which is you need to surround yourself with people who are doing more than you, who are doing the things that you want to do, like who are having the success that you want to have in a way that you want to have it. You got to surround yourself with people like that. And to his point, also having that coach, by having those people around you, it changes your mindset. Now you've got the coach gets involved, and the coach helps you hold yourself accountable, just like Christopher and I did on this call. Look at that. He's got his kids right there.
Yeah.
So I love it. I love it. Is this guy going to be in real estate one day?
You gonna sell some houses, buddy?
Uh-huh. All right. I love it. That's awesome, dude. That's fantastic. Well, that being said, Coach Jason, Coach Jason is getting on the call right now. He's jumping in because I'm doing a Club Wealth TV episode with him next. And so, Coach Christopher, I really appreciate you taking the time. Any final thoughts that you'd like to share with anybody? And how can they get a hold of you, by the way?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look me up on Facebook. I would love for you to add me. And if you're, in tier two looking for a coach, hit me up at the end of the day. Huge advocate of Club Wealth and, the amount of growth that you can have in your business with it. But closing thoughts, I love that you kind of push for the accountability, Michael, and we kind of all push each other, as coaches and members of Club Wealth at the end of the day. So surround yourself with the right people.
Well, I'm super excited, man. I'm stoked for your goal. I'm stoked, and more. Let me rephrase that. I'm stoked for your commitment, and I believe that you'll accomplish that. And hopefully, I'll see you on the coaches call here later today. And I'd love to share that with them. More importantly, I'd love to share with them the success that you're having working just 30 hours a week. I think that's fantastic. So. That said, appreciate you being on, folks. Type your questions for Coach Christopher in the chat, in the comments on Facebook here or on social media, and we'll do the very best we can to make sure that your questions get answered. Take care and have an awesome day, everybody.
See you, Michael.
You bet. Club Wealth is the only coaching company on the planet that will literally guarantee that you will double your income or make at least an extra $100,000 your first year coaching with us, or we will give you 100% of your investment back. Click the link below, sign up for the appropriate tier level, and let's get you a strategy session today. And I promise you, I 100% guarantee you, promise you that you will walk away with a heart full of gratitude for the time that we took for you because you got so much value out of that call. Schedule your strategy session today. I promise you'll be glad you did.